Hello fiber friends, today I will be demonstrating how to do the triple knot fringe. Now if you're like me, I like a good fringe on a scarf, and I wanted to offer something a little bit different and something that kind of gives you a bit of a boho feel. So I will be demonstrating how to do the triple knot fringe. Let's begin. Now the first thing we want to do is we want to cut 20 strands, and I'm going to cut them at 72 inches. Now if you're anything like me, I love a good fringe. So I cut mine each at 72 inches. You can adjust the length as you wish, but I highly recommend making it longer rather than shorter, because we are doing a triple knot fringe. We want to make sure that we have enough space for the end of the actual fringe. So now once you've cut your 20 strands, you're going to grab both ends, join those two ends together and fold that in half. And then you're going to repeat. You're going to find your center point and hold it there. And right now you can see we have what looks like 4 strands. You're going to get the edge of your scarf, and you're going to begin at the very end here. Now I'm going to use a crochet hook, and feel free to use your knitting needles, because that will work as well. You're going to find your center point, and here you'll see that I have my I-cord edge, and I'm going to go right in between that I-cord, and I'm going to go from the back into the front, and you're going to pull that through. And then you're going to pull those 4 strands through that loop and pull. Give it a little tug there, and then we're going to repeat with the second one. Once again, I'm going to join my edges, fold it in half, fold it in half a second time, find my center point, and this time I'm going to go based on the pattern. So here I'm going to go into my 2x1 rib. I'm going to go into the 2 rib, and I'm going to go in between my 2 knit stitches and pull that through, release the crochet hook, and then I'm going to feed the ends through the loop and pull. Now that I'm down to my last fringe, I'm going to repeat that one last time. Find my center point at the very end of the I-cord edge and pull that through. Now you want to be careful when you get to the very end. You want to make sure that you get close to the edge as possible. Okay. So now that we have all our fringes on, we're ready to begin the triple knot process. Starting with these first 2 fringes, we're going to pull the rest aside so we can see what we're doing here. You're going to split the second fringe in half so that you have 2 strands, and you're going to cross these 2 strands over these 4 strands, under, over, and then pull through. And this is where you're going to want to measure. Now if you want it closer to the top, that's up to you. If you want it lower, that's another option, but I'm going to go about maybe about an inch in and pull. Now once you have created your first knot, it's pretty easy to adjust. You could just slide that down if you want. If you want to make it a little bit longer, if you want to go a little bit tighter and higher up, you can do that. I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. So these knots are really adjustable once they're on. I would suggest not tightening it too tight for that knot, you want to make it a little loose so that we can go back and adjust those later. Okay, now I'm going to take the other 2 strands and we're going to split the third fringe in half again, and we're going to repeat the process. Okay, so now we are down to our last fringe. Now instead of splitting these, we're not going to split these. What we're going to do is we're going to grab all 4 strands and repeat the process again with these 2 strands. Bring these 4 strands over, under, and feed it through that loop. Now this is where you're going to want to start adjusting. Now if you want to go longer, like I said, just pull that knot down a little bit. You can make it a little bit longer. I kind of like the length that we're at right now, so I'm going to just make sure that all my knots are even. Now you're going to notice that on your first fringe we have 6 strands. Just so you know, we want to make sure that we always have 4 strands going down both sides. So we're going to split that so that we have 4 strands here on your left and 2 strands on your right. We're going to push those 4 to the side and we're going to work on the second fringe, split those in 2, and we're going to repeat the process again where we bring the 2 strands from the right over the 2 strands on the left, tuck that underneath, bring those ends through the loop, we're going to draw that knot to the top a little bit and then tighten it. We're going to repeat. Now we are down to our last fringe. Remember, we have 6 strands, we need 4. So we're going to split that so that we take 2 strands away from the 6. We're going to take these 2 strands, cross it over to the left, tuck that underneath, feed the ends through the loop, and draw that knot in. Tighten it up a little bit. Now, this is where we do our little adjusting. We're focusing on everything below the edge. So we got row 1, row 2. So what we're looking at are these knots. We want to make sure that they're even, so you can see that this guy's a little higher up. So we're going to bring that guy down. These look pretty good. This one's a little high up, so let me bring that down a little bit. Same thing with this one. And now we're ready to begin the third row of knots. Now we're going to repeat the same process that we did on the first row. Now the last thing that we want to do is we want to give our fringe a haircut. We're just going to need a haircut because they're a little too long at this point. So I want to make sure that I match the first fringe to the second fringe. Now this measures 7.5, so I want to make sure that this equals 7.5 from the last knot down. Now that I have all my ends cut, you can see some of them are uneven, but that's okay. That gives it a little bit of a nice little added element, I like to call. Now if you want to go ahead and trim a little bit more, that's totally fine. And one last thing I like to do, just because sometimes with a lot of wear, the ends will tend to open up, right? That twist will open up. So what I like to do is I just like to give it a little bit of a knot. One last note before we end this video. You're going to notice the edge tends to buck out a little bit. So what I always like to do is I like to give it another blocking so that everything just aligns perfectly. And that is our triple knot fringe.